Hello everyone, welcome to Ops on Cloud. In this video, let's discuss about third Kubernetes interview question. How do you systematically manage environment variables for hundreds of service accounts, multiple stages? Okay, dev, QA, and prod. All right. Yeah. See, basically this specific question is there, right? This is like in like a senior level interview question. Okay, so if you're applying for jobs more than like 5+ years of work experience, right? So there you can expect this interview question. It's little bit tricky, and sometimes in each project how they handle these things might slightly be different. So we will try to discuss about one approach which is commonly used, and so that you guys can tell these things in the interview very easily. Okay. So the first step is to manage environment variables systematically on like diff of for like hundreds of services, right? And these services might have multiple stages like dev, QA, and prod. Okay. So for example, let's take an example of Elastic Kubernetes service in AWS. Okay. For that, so what we are supposed to do is the first step starts at namespace level. Okay. So basically, we can use a separate Kubernetes namespace for each environment. Like development environment will have a separate namespace, QA will have a separate namespace, and similarly, prod will have a separate namespace. Okay, and this basically helps us to isolate the resources and configurations so that whatever the environment specific settings are there, right? For example, your dev environment might be pointing to a different database, QA different DB, and even prod different DB. Okay, so these things will never get mixed up. And then we should also make sure that we will have a separate config maps and secrets. So quickly, config map is basically like in K8s. If you want to store like non-sensitive configurations like API endpoints or like application debug mode, so those things you can basically keep it in config map, and anything which comes under sensitive informations like your API tokens, passwords, all these things we can store it under secrets. Okay, and then since in this case we will have multiple environments with multiple services, right? So directly with the manifest files you can't actually manage them very well. I mean, like as and when the size or scale of your application grows, it becomes very hard to manage. So therefore, we need templating tools. For example, like we can go with tools like Helm or Customize. So I would prefer Helm because it has good community support and the documentations are very well written. So because of that. So basically in Helm, right, what we can do is if you want to manage like hundreds of services, we can parameterize this environment specific values, okay, where you can create and this will allow us to create like YAML files dynamically for each environment. So for example, your development environment will have its own values.yaml file, your prod with own values.yaml file, something like that. And also, when you keep your secrets and all right, I would recommend you to go with external secret manager. Okay, so you can go with AWS secrets or I mean like HashiCorp Vault. I would prefer HashiCorp Vault. The reason behind that is it is not dependent on any specific cloud providers, and we can completely isolate Vault from any cloud providers. Okay, and for example, like if you're working in a multi-cloud environment, all those things and all are there, right? So at such kind of scenarios, HashiCorp Vault plays really well. So that is why I'm going with that one. Okay, while explaining, and one more thing is like the CD part. So whatever the Helm packages, whatever you develop, right, at the end you need to deploy it. Okay. For K8's based deployment, I would recommend using with advanced tools like Argo CD. You can also do it in many other tools, but Argo CD is something which has very good capability, mainly when it comes to the deployment aspects of Kubernetes based environment. For example, if you are doing any rollouts, all these things and all are there, right? So it becomes very easily. Okay, so this is like a quick answer which you can give to the interviewer. Okay, so now what we will do is let's try to go one step ahead and try to understand what I explained visually. So you should know, right? I mean, like how these things will be structured, all those things. So that is why I'll come here. I have already created in my VS Code. All right. See, for example, the first part is like I mean like let's assume that you have a service called as my service, okay, and you need to manage these environment variables differently. Okay, so if you see here, what we are supposed to do is, I'm using Helm charts here. Okay, Helm to create these templates, and this will be the base structure of our Helm charts. You have a service, you have a charts, you have a templates. Deployment, config map, secrets, all these things are there. And then if you see here, you have values.yaml and charts.yaml. These two files play a critical role. Okay, remember. So for now, the structure will be like this. You just have to remember. In the next steps, I will go in detail and explain like how it will be helpful for us. Okay, and the config maps are there, right? We have these templates. Under these templates we keep our config maps. In config maps, the structure will be like this. See, I mean like we have a kind called as config map in the main manifest, and then we can basically provide in this under this data block, right? For example, your API endpoints, feature flags, whatever is there, everything can be called within this config maps. And same thing applies to secret. The secrets, only the kind will be secret. See here, this is config map, this is secrets. Both stores information. In secrets, you have multiple type. Opaque means it will be completely masked. Okay. So if you see here, I'm keeping like sample keys like database password, API key, all these things will be present here in secrets. Okay, that's how it works. In the main manifest files, these things will be encrypted in base64 encoding format. What is our main manifest files? The deployment manifest file is there, right? If you see here, this is our main manifest files. Okay, and straightforward, I'll come here. See, you have your config maps which has been defined here, whatever API endpoint, feature flag, all those things, and then you have database password. So if you see here, right, for even for the database password, so basically this is the secret reference. Through this string, you are telling that I'm basically storing application specific secrets here. Okay, and then you have this environment specifications. Okay, so for example, now we have multiple environments, right? For each environment, see, we should keep a different separate values file. Okay, because like that is how you pass it. So you have a development environment, you have a separate values.yaml, and there you can define that specific image, the configurations, all those things. Similarly, if you have production environment, again, like similarly, you will keep like a production specification configurations. Okay, for deploying with Helm charts, right? When you deploy with Helm charts, see here, we just have to run this Helm upgrade commands, and then you can deploy it. And we need to provide those specific values.yaml files. That's I mean like parameter. All right. So usually what we do is we have a GitHub repository, and each repository will have its own. Sorry, inside a repository we have multiple branches. You have a development branch, QA branch, and production branch. All these things are there, right? The intention is like we tend to map it with these branches, and each branch will have its own configuration files. And then when you go with a CI/CD based approach, right, you can easily identify those specific values from the respective branches and then do the deployment. So that's how internally it works. All right, and all you have to do is Helm upgrade, and then you have your deployment ready. And while doing the deployment, you can go with Canary, Blue Green. All these things are rolling updates. These are like deployment strategies. But the focus of this question is like how we isolate the environment, and this is how we can isolate this specific environment. Okay, so you need to my suggestion is whatever I have written here, right? I mean like if you already have experience in K8s, then for you it's not recommended. But if you are somebody new who is who is I mean like preparing for the interviews, and if you are trying to showcase some amount of experience in Kubernetes, at that point of time I would recommend you to practice this. Okay, practice, I mean like how you configure these secrets, how you configure this config maps, at least type it out once, so that you will get an approach, I mean like how these things gets interacted. Okay, you don't have to deploy it in case, at least you can test it on your local systems, just by seeing like how the syntax works, all those things, so that gives you a good understanding of the entire process that I'm trying to explain. Okay, so yeah, so that's it for this video, and I hope this helps you a lot. So if you like this video that I'm trying to create, please like and subscribe to our channel. It will even motivate me to make more such content. Thanks a lot. Bye bye.